introduction sets the stage to turn the page. At the raising of the curtain, I am hurting and uncertain of the parts that we have played. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Must I sing this song again? Why must this show go on? Must this show go on? Must this show go
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 43 of the Four Wall Sunday Roundtable. My name is Drew Quinones. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't believe that it's already May. We just announced recently that we are going to be doing the second annual virtual vendor showcase. It's been a year, which I can't believe either, since we put that on. So I'm going to drop the link in the little comment area. So make sure you register for the second annual virtual vendor showcase, and hopefully it is the last of all virtual vendor showcase. I am joined once again by my co-host Jeff Kreuter.
Hey, Drew, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. I can't believe another week's gone by. I can't believe it's been almost a year since we started these.
Yeah,
this is definitely the brightest day. I don't think it's ever been this bright outside my window. I'm doing so many in the dark over the year.
Yeah. And it's our first worship arts panel. So yeah, you know, I'm really excited to learn and talk to our panel today.
It is our first and definitely not our last. And I'm sorry it took us so long to do the first one, especially since we've actually been talking about doing this for a while. So I'm glad we're doing it. I'm really excited about it. I will say, being from the somewhat insular world of theater in the New York theater rental market, I was unaware of how big the worship arts design field was until I started doing shows in Vegas and buying equipment and system for venues. It's an enormous market and does production as big as the biggest rock tours and bigger than Broadway shows. And it was pointed out to me, I think Drew and I were just talking about this before, it was pointed out to me recently that the Worship Arts Design Facebook group is almost twice the size of the United Scenic Artists group. So there's a bit of knowledge for everyone. And my social media update of the year, that's probably all you're going to get from me. Another great group of guests.
Yes.
I'm really excited to talk to them. So Drew, let's meet.
Alrighty. Well, I'm sorry if I mess up your last name. We'll just say it right now, but MeKenna, I'm going to get your name. First lighting designer from Christ Church of the Valley, MeKenna Beauregard.
Well done.
Hi, Drew. You got it.
There we go. All right. Alrighty. Next is lighting designer at Harvest, Chris Eguizabal. Dang it. I know I messed that up.
Hey.
Hey, Chris. So how do you go ahead? Say it for me.
It's Eguizabal.
I was way off.
Close though.
And next is the lighting designer at Church of the Highlands, Griffin, McCravy. Oh.
Added an arm, McCravy. Hey guys.
Sorry. And last but not least, the hardest name of the entire panel, lighting designer at Worship Center, Daniel Robinson. Daniel.
Hey, you got it right.
Yeah, thank you.
You should have thrown that one just to make it look like. Drew, you did it right. We're going to test you again at the end before we go.
Please don't.
I promise. We won't have time, I'm sure. We're gonna. What do you say? You want another shot, or you want to dive right in?
Let's go in.
Let's go right in. All right, Griffin. We're going to start with you randomly. There's no reason. I will say we often begin with our guest backgrounds and career paths, but today I'm going to jump right into talking about what you do and where you do it. So, Griffin, please tell us, where do you work? Tell us a little about the facility or facilities, location, scale, size, etc. Go.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Griffin. I am the broadcast lighting director at Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. We're a multi-site church. We've got a broadcast location, which is where I'm located, with 23 campuses across the state of Alabama and one campus in the state of Georgia. So my role as the broadcast lighting director is to design all of the lighting for the main location that broadcasts the message portion of our service to our other locations. And then each individual campus has their own unique worship experience. So that's kind of supported from a central level. We'll help them with designs and stage plots and things like that. But on a Sunday, week in and week out, we've got volunteers getting to run those experiences at those campuses.
Does each one have their own lighting designer, or do you design the look and the plots for each one?
So our vision is that all campuses feel similar while they have their own kind of unique flair to them. So on the weekend, I'm actually designing the color-specific layout for each song, for each location, and then they're kind of building off of color, positions, gobos, effects, all those kind of things.
Great. Fascinating. Daniel, how about you?
I work at a worship center in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we're just one location, but we have a 1,400 seat auditorium, and we pretty full most weeks. We have a smaller kidsman auditorium and multi-purpose student ministry room we use as well. So I take care of all the scenic and lighting design for the main stage, main auditorium, for all of our Sunday services, as well as any special events in there, holidays, things like that. So anything lighting-wise, I program everything for Sundays, for services, and all that kind of lighting prep, maintenance, repair, stuff like that all falls on. That's what I get to do. And then I also take care of the other B spaces around the building and just general maintaining and looking up keeping those up to speed.
Cool. Chris.
Hi. I'm a lighting designer for Harvest Ministries, probably more known for our Harvest Crusades, if you've seen or been to those. So I'm in charge of the lighting and scenic design for our stages at both of our main campuses. We have one in Riverside and one in Orange County. And then all of our crusades, special events, and outreaches. I don't do it alone, though. I have another LD that works with me. His name is Nicholas Valdez. Some of you probably know him because you see him in my Instagram stories. So yeah, we both manage the lighting at both campuses and then all of our special events. And so that includes this venue. And then each campus has a bunch of B venues, like a children's theater, a youth space, and a multi-purpose space as well. So that's what I do.
Excellent. McKenna, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm a lighting designer at Christ Church of the Valley in Phoenix, Arizona. Our main auditorium seats about 3,500. We have a weekly attendance across all of our 11 campuses now of about 40,000. And I program and operate majority of the weekends at our broadcast location. And then I also speak into overall, kind of like Griffin, overall just design aesthetic, color palettes, choices like that for the other locations. The production managers at each location actually program and operate those campuses. Got it.
Are those a bunch of drums behind you?
They are. I'm actually hiding out in our music studio.
Cool.
McKenna, we'll stick with you. How did you come to this job?
Yeah. I fell in love with production at a pretty young age. I got started volunteering in high school, just running like back wall pro presenter lyrics for our junior high ministry here. And throughout the years, just started getting more and more involved. I ended up doing cameras on our adults team, and that's where I met the lighting designer and production designer at the time. And I started an internship right after high school, not really knowing what I was going to do, but wanting to be involved with production and with lighting, and then started contracting a little bit into that, and then ended up with a full-time job here, but they just couldn't get rid of me. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Chris, how about you?
Oh, man. My love probably started, or at least love for lighting, started at a very young age when my parents worked at Disneyland. So
nice.
Seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, and they worked there, so I was there quite a lot as a kid. And thankfully, one of my mentors actually worked at Disneyland, so he was able to help me find, the right places and schools to go to, and different seminars, and introduced me to people. Took me around my first LDI, so that's pretty much where I fell in love with lighting design and scenic and everything and production overall.
What year did you go to LDI? Did you go to the 4-wall party?
Oh gosh, I went as soon as because you can't go alone unless you're an adult. So as soon as I turned 18, I went.
Is that true? You can't go alone. Too much haze.
Do any of you have the tattoo from that one?
Oh, I didn't get it, but I went to the party.
That was my idea. I can't believe that when we did bring that up, I couldn't believe that people actually did it. It was kind of more of a joke.
That was your idea? I didn't even know this.
Yes.
That's it's infamous. Congratulations. It's the best marketing anyone's ever done.
I was like, well, I can't believe that people actually did that.
But Chris, how did you get the job where you are right now, though? I didn't hear that.
My goal and my dream was to work at Disneyland. So I did everything I could to work at Disneyland. Ended up working at Disneyland. So I was there, did special events and some programming and all that. And then all of a sudden, because at the same time I was volunteering at the church, because of course everyone's like, find a church, volunteer, go to a theater, join it, volunteer.
Right.
So I did a lot of that, volunteering with churches, theaters, production companies. And then I just, for some reason, fell in love with the team here. Mm-hmm. Eventually I became a Christian. So that obviously had a big impact as well. And then eventually just realizing that the culture is something that I really loved and appreciated, in the teamwork and everything. So I ended up having my dad was sick at the time, and so it was just time to make a change. I'm like, you know what? I really need to be around, my dad, and being a host obviously introduced the time and then the people that I need in my life as well for the support. So I ended up making the decision to come here. They offered the job full time, and so I'm here for 10 years now.
Wow. Amazing. Awesome. Griffin, how about you?
Yeah, so I was the kid when I was younger in church that was never able to pay attention to the sermon, always to the audio console. So I didn't really know what that was like. I didn't know what it involved. I just knew that it was interesting to me. So kind of my first experience was, high school theater. For many, that's kind of their first spot. Started in audio, did that for about 2 years, and then kind of swapped over to more lighting and just scenic in general for theater. And then out of high school, I grew up in a city about an hour away from Birmingham, so I knew of Church of the Highlands, but I'd never really been to it. Church of the Highlands actually has a college called Highlands College. It's a ministry-based program, but it has a creative track and a live production track if you're interested in either of those two things, both in ministry and then in the harvest field, as they say. And so I started the college program. It was a 2-year program, and after about a year in the production track, got offered my first position here, which was a lighting assistant, which essentially I was just kind of getting phone calls when things needed to be fixed at a campus, or, when we had a volunteer not show up on the weekend and they needed somebody to run it. So it was kind of more of a support position. And then I've been in the role I've been in as the lighting designer now for about 2 years.
Awesome. And Daniel, how about you?
Yeah, I started lighting way back, probably in middle school. I started doing running foul spots for talent shows at school, and then in high school I did a lot of theater and kind of just fell in love with lighting. And all through that, I through at church as well, I was volunteering on the tech team in Kidsman, and slowly got brought into the main auditorium and kind of just fell in love with lighting, and then was asked to kind of do more other things at church and help with stuff there. And then I was gonna graduate high school. I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go to school for this. So went to college for theater design and production, and lighting was my focus. So did that, and then it's kind of something I've always loved. And then I moved out to Lancaster in 2018, and kind of got a phone call that they were looking for an interim LD here at the church. And I had just kind of moved here and was looking for a good community of people. And they next thing I know, 6 months later, I'm still interim. And then it was like, do you want to just join staff? And I was like, sure. So I work here. And it's been a great almost 4 years, I think.
Right.
Cool. Are you all members of the church where you work?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it. Cool. Amazing. So do you freelance other places as well, or is it just do you just work at the one place? Is it a full-time job? Let's go with McKenna.
Yeah, I am working full-time job here. I also freelance and I work as a lighting director, a lighting technician at other events around the valley and around the country. But mainly this is my full-time gig right now with COVID and no events happening.
Griffin?
Yeah, so I also freelance, kind of similar to McKenna. It's my full-time job here at the church, and the church ministry comes first. But they kind of understand, especially in the production world that we're in, how getting outside experience a lot of help in our even being in different environments, things like that. So I do freelance across the country and things like that, kind of as gigs pop up and I have time off to do it.
Cool. Daniel?
So I actually am part-time at the church. I work full-time at Sight and Sound Theaters here in town, and that's kind of what brought me into the area. But yeah, that's kind of, and then I'm here in the evenings. But I also say, like, there's no such thing as part-time at a church. It's my fully part-time job.
Sure.
So evenings and weekends, this is where you'll find me, and this is where I'm at. And
yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I love it here. And every once in a while, there's some other churches in town I work for as well if they need help on stuff.
Yeah. And Chris?
I do quite a lot of freelance, actually. I actually worked for Daniel on a gig out here in LA once.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then, I actually went part-time in 2019, just before COVID. I think it was September of 2019. I went part-time at the church to do full-time freelance. And so I had some tours booked and designed, and then COVID hit, and then everything got canceled.
Yeah.
So thankfully, the church offered my job back full-time because they ramped up a lot of their broadcasts and a lot of online services and events. So thankful for that. Obviously excited to go on and do some other things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, church is, as Daniel said, it's part-time, full-time.
Yeah.
A lot of
Chris, how long has the church had extensive lighting and production?
Our church hasn't had it, its entire lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
Probably within the last, I want to say, close to 15 years is when they started phasing it in.
Yeah.
I think about 15 years we went to TBN live on Sunday mornings, and that's when they really added a moving light rig. Back then it was all very light and those kind of fixtures.
Right.
We had Max's console. So that, and even then it wasn't like a lot of concert vibes. It was just literally lit for TV.
Right.
Right.
The more contemporary and more like concert, you could say, vibe started probably about 10 years ago when I came on. It started before then. We really started to ramp it up. Back then we used to be like, a lot of the Christian artists who were starting out would come to Harvest and perform just to get them in front of a lot of people. So that's really when I think it started. Our service that kicked it off was called Day 7 back then.
Right.
It was like a young adult youth service, so obviously they wanted to appeal to the younger crowd and everything. So that's really when it started. And even now, like on Sunday mornings, we don't go, crazy rock show lighting. It's very, intentional. There's not a lot of lights blinding into the audience.
And we'll definitely get to the design part for sure later in the show, 100%.
Yeah, it's fairly recent when we started doing it.
Okay. And McKenna, how about at your church?
Yeah, I would say probably the last 10 years we've been, really taking into account production and production design. But I'd say the last 5 to 6 years was when we really had a culture shift and things started to really change, and we really valued, bringing in gear and renting gear and just being more intentional with production and lighting during services. So probably the last 5 to 6 was when it really stepped up a notch.
Awesome. And Griffin, how about you?
Yeah, well, 10
your church.
years. When this building was built in 2007, that was kind of really the first step in more of a broadcast direction, kind of a broadcast quality size of service, and then kind of ramped up again in the last 5-6 years, kind of as worship in general has kind of ramped up in some of what it's doing and trying to reach people and be more relevant in culture. So last 5-10 years.
Awesome. And Daniel?
Yeah, I think probably the last 10 years. The building's 13 years old. So it definitely, when they built the building, it was definitely a part of what they wanted to put in the building with catwalks and plenty of dimming, plenty of power. So it's definitely, I think in the last 3 years since I stepped on, we've kind of taken it up a notch and kind of embraced more production and stuff, and what bigger lighting rigs, and we can have more flexibility of doing things, I think. So
let's talk a little bit about how you learned how to do this, and where it all started for you. I think we touched a little bit on how you became interested in lighting, but let's maybe hit that again. So Griffin, let's start with you. How did you learn how to do lighting? Where did it come from, and what made you want to do it in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it was really just kind of an itch that I didn't know how to scratch growing up. Again, like I said, I mean, really, I say it as a joke, but it's kind of true. I mean, I really zoned in on the tech side of how services were being created growing up. And fortunately for me, I kind of grew up in a church that back in the day was a TV station church. So they had a couple cameras, a little bit of lighting. So I got to kind of see that as I was growing up. And it really started in youth group, was where I actually started running audio. Just a very small little Yamaha analog console that we would use to mix. And from there, it kind of really stepped up into theater in high school, where it turned into a little bit more lighting related. And I really enjoyed being able to transform things for people, transform environments, to be able to take people to the castle and Beauty and the Beast, and, you know, make them feel like they're in Aladdin, and different plays like that. And so I kind of use that now. That's a skill that I learned then, and I've kind of begin to use it now to create worship environments where we can kind of take people from where they are, take people from their day to day, and really kind of place them in a special moment in service. And so, you know, realistically, as far as gear goes, I try to stay on YouTube all the time. I'm a real big hands-on person, so I'll try to find somewhere. If it's a console, I'll try to find somebody or a venue or something that has one, and, you know, beg them, hey, can I come, you know, just mess around or whatever. So it's very hands-on for me, and just kind of, you know, learning as I go.
And so you didn't study lighting. It's you're learning as you go, and and it sounds like you're doing a great job of it too. But
really, more in the last 5 or so years, I've started to take some actual like classes, like some broadcast theory and, you know, lighting theory and things like that. And then my time I spent in the college here at the church was a little bit more, you know, hands-on kind of school training.
Sure. Great. Well, don't take too many classes and ruin everything. No, I'm kidding.
I'll try
I shouldn't have said that.
I'm just figuring it out as I go.
Jeff,
Daniel,
you can retract that at the end of the show.
That's right. Yeah. I'm allowed to do that. Daniel, you said you studied lighting, or did you say that?
Yeah, I went to school for theater, and lighting was my like focus there. So definitely, though, like my passion behind it started way back in like middle school and high school, and just volunteering at the church a lot. Really, that I grew up in was a pretty production heavy. We did big Christmas shows and Easter productions. So that like definitely made my interest in how lighting affects the storytelling and what you're doing on stage. So that's really where like that passion for lighting came from, I think, was being involved in that. And then I was like, well, I'm really good at this, so I'm gonna like go to school for this, because I don't want to go to school for like math or anything like that. Like, this sounds great. So I went to school, kind of learned a lot in school, but I also like, I'm definitely more hands-on. So like the more classes probably weren't where I learned things. It was definitely like in rehearsals, or like loading in a show, or I worked at a rental house for a summer and did stuff there, and just pulled gear, and internships and stuff like that. I learned a lot. So I think that's cool. School, you learn stuff, but it's the hands-on, I think, for in this field is where you learn like the most important stuff.
And what's amazing, you know, you can take anyone else we've had on the show, or so many of the people I've spoken to, and, you know, for you, the inspiration came at church watching production, and so many people, the inspiration came in high school watching Guys and Dolls. I mean, it's, you know, it has to start somewhere. What's amazing is that we're all of us who do it are inspired to do it, and, you know, and keep it going somehow. Having said that, McKenna, how did it start for you?
Yeah, so like I said, you know, I grew up here, and just fell in love with production, and really just being behind the scenes, being in front of house, and just running lyrics, or doing, you know, stage managing, things like that. But what really got me is like at summer camps. Summer camps are a big deal for us here, and it was at camps in California that I really was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I just wanted to be a part of summer camps again. So when I was leaving, you know, high school age, I was like, hey, can I do an internship with lighting and be a part of that? And had a really awesome mentor that poured into me. He actually went to design school, so a lot of what he taught was design school like inspired. So I really just had some great mentors that poured into me and took a chance. A lot of it was learning on the job, learning as I went. There's some great bobblehead Fred videos from ETC that taught me ACN and network protocols and all that. But a lot of just learning on the job, and some really great mentors pouring into me.
I'll shout out to Al for that because he's sent me those videos definitely before.
Shout out to the bobblehead videos.
Yeah, bobblehead thread. I send those videos to a lot of our guys all the time. Like, hey, this will explain it.
Well, ETC. There you go. A little shout out to ETC.
Yeah.
Chris, how about you?
It really just a lot of mentors. I did the schooling thing too, but like Daniel said, a lot of it was just hands-on experience. Just a lot of mentors. A lot of the guys at a bunch of the manufacturers introduced me to a lot of lighting designers, and those guys just poured into me, like other programmers, and the list goes on and on. But yeah, a lot of it was just hands-on learning. Again, the ETC videos, YouTube is like a gem for learning. And really just like social media, like constantly like being connected to other people who are honestly better than I am at a lot of things. So just, soaking up what they have to tell you about, the craft and everything. And yeah, just, networking and connecting with people who are knowledgeable and just learning from them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Chris, I'll stick with you. What other kind of lighting have you done, if any?
I've probably done a lot of it. I've done, theater, musicals, corporate, TV.
Oh, yeah.
Festivals, tours.
Cool. Awesome. So pretty much everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And honestly, we kind of dabble in all those types of lighting.
That's great. And McKenna, how about you? Is it?
Yeah, honestly, strictly church so far. But what we do here is a lot of different events. So we've done, like I said, like every summer, it's like we're on tour for 4 weeks. We're in California at a stadium, or we're going to a venue up in Prescott and taking over a performing arts theater or things like that. But then it's also like we'll rent out a studio for a few days and do like kids worship video, dance videos. So lighting for that is very different than lighting in a broadcast. But yeah.
That's awesome. So do you have to learn, I mean, from going from a live event to TV and film, do you just have to kind of learn that as you go, or?
Yeah, sure. I think I'd send a photo in too of the videos I'm talking about, but it's basically like music, like dance videos, if you will, and those are then played during the worship set at for like our kids ministry during their service. And the kids, I love walking into those rooms and seeing the kids like engaging with that and doing that. But lighting those is like a lot of fun. We can use rainbow faces and lots of pink and we use the serotonin tubes for the last shoot. But things like that is definitely a lot different. We approach those things a lot differently. And then when you're lighting for in the room versus for broadcast, or if we're lighting, like in this case, we're lighting for people in the room and also broadcasters, so many things to keep in mind. But
well, I didn't upload that photo, unfortunately, but I did get this one. So
shout out to Four Wall.
Yeah.
That was one of our truck packs from 2 summers ago.
Awesome. I didn't ask her to send that. Everybody, she sent it.
You showed it.
I know. I couldn't help it. I'm gonna show it again.
I think there's like all of our photos. There's like a 4-wall case somewhere in the back. There was like when I was on a command wing setup, I was like, oh, there's 4-wall cases in the back of that one too.
Oh yeah. We when we're watching like a live show or something, I'm like, oh, I didn't know we did the lighting for that, because you see a 4-wall case. Griffin, how about you?
Yeah, kind of similar to Chris. I've done a little bit of it all. A theater background, then here in the church, done some stuff outside of the church for TV, done a couple different broadcast things, and then a couple of like stops of different shows, things like that. Haven't been on like a full tour yet, like stuck with it for all the stops, but that's on the list of one of the things to do.
Awesome. And Daniel?
Yeah, I've done theater, I've done dance, I've done TV for 2 years. So I've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah, tell us about a little about this.
So I work at Sight and Sound Theaters, and this is our show, Queen Esther, that's on stage. So we're like one of the largest Christian theaters in the country. We bring the Bible to life on stage. So this is one of the cool shows that we have playing right now in Lancaster. So it's and that's Noah that I opened last year before everything shut down out in Branson. So that's our oldest show we have and our newest show. So we're a 2,000 seat theater, 300-foot wraparound stage around and you sit down in the middle of it, and we just tell Bible stories and bring them to life in a over-the-top way, and it's pretty cool.
How wide is the stage? Sorry, you say wrap around.
So it's like 300 feet all the way around.
Oh
the main stage is 150, and then it's about 100 on each side. Then
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's really cool. We have a huge lighting rig there, and it's definitely like, it's unlike any other place I've ever been. Like, I love theater and like going to Broadway and seeing stuff like that, but then what we do is like totally different. Someone was recently like, it's like Vegas, Broadway, Disney World, all kind of combined into one, and it's really cool. It's cool. So like, I get to use a lot of cool gear there, and then I'm like, oh, well, I could take this thing and bring it, and like, how can I implement that at church now, or things like that. So it is kind of cool to do both.
So Daniel, let's stick with you. What are the different kinds of services or events or presentations that you design at the church? And what's the difference in the lighting from one to the next?
Yeah, for the most part, it's our week-to-week Sunday services. So that's pretty consistent. It's a basic like worship, few songs, program those out, and then like a message look, and then a few other like little looks in between. But then it goes to things like Christmas, which is a much bigger service, and a lot more special elements in service. To like last summer, because of COVID, we were doing a bunch of like student ministry things outdoors. So we were like setting up a stage outside, and if it got too dark, we were trying to figure out, well, as we're getting into the fall, do we got to go pull extra lights out for them, or things like that. So it does vary. A lot of it is our Sunday morning services, and then there's those other like one-off things. Like I built a display for the lobby for Kidsmen, so that had some lights in it. So it's like stuff like that. But
and then this is like
this is a normal Sunday service. So
fun. Looks like a fun normal Sunday service.
Pretty much.
And how often does the lighting rig change through the year?
So for us, we're on like I'd say 5 to 6 times a year we rotate our stage. So we'll do a new stage design kind of in line with a new sermon series every once in a while, and then that also then gives me a chance to then reposition lights and decide where things want to go, rearrange the band on stage, to whatever fits with the new set. So 5 to 6 times.
Wow. And Griffin, how about you? What are the different kinds of services you do, and how often do you change the rig?
Yeah, so for us, very similar. Our normal service is week in, week out on Sundays. Those services are pretty much like a look for each song. We usually do like a 3-song set, and then a speaking or a sermon look. And then the campuses will kind of do busking throughout the service for the songs themselves. And then we once a month have a first Wednesday service, which is the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. It's kind of more of like if Sunday is like kind of the mega church service, our first Wednesday service is kind of more of what we call our home crowd service. So it's more of, our normal attendees will spend a lot more time in worship, kind of, be a little bit more spirit filled, not really sure where the moment's going to go. Whereas Sunday's a little more, 3 songs and then the speaking. And then we have student services. We serve our middle school, our high school students with a service called Motion. And then we try to kind of reach out to some of our college students through a ministry that we call One, and that's on Thursday nights. It's really cool. It actually happens at a little bit more of like a historic site downtown. That's just a secular music venue that we're just another show that loads into it once a week. So it's a lot of fun. We get to do something a little different during the week. And then we've got our services, like Easter, Christmas. Those are always fun. And then as far as, stage layout and things like that, here at the broadcast campus, we're pretty much quarterly for the most part. It's usually, first of the year, Easter. We have a big women's conference in September or October, wherever it falls on the calendar, and then Christmas. Those are usually kind of our 4 that we hit each year.
Got it.
And then tell us about this project here.
Yes, yeah. This was a lot of fun. Shout out to Four Wall. It was this was for Christmas during COVID. We were actually trying to figure out how do we socially distance a 50-person orchestra, because we wanted to have an online experience if people didn't feel comfortable yet to come back into the room. And then we also used the film footage to actually supplement and be like song content during our live services. So if you were watching online for Highlands for Christmas, you got to experience this beautiful orchestra. And then if you attended a service in person, thanks to SMPTE and Timecode, it was kind of tying everything together. So the orchestra was actually playing along with the live service. So then it would be, graphical type art on the wall, and then it would morph into footage of the orchestra and then go back and forth. So it was a lot of fun, and that was at our a convention center that we rent out for different events downtown. It was lots of fun, lots of like over 1,000 feet of truss. So that was our in-person services where we kind of tied in our in-person services and that online experience.
Awesome.
I have to say, there were theater companies and music companies that have been around for 100 years that couldn't figure out how to do that during COVID. So, that's amazing. That looks great. I will also say that we did not populate this panel with four-wall customers. We never do that. That is absolutely not something we ever do. This is a complete coincidence. We had no idea, but that's great. Just shows you how great four-wall is. Chris, let's go to you. Sorry, what? Now I've forgotten the question. What kind of services and events do you light? And does the rig change during the year?
Yeah, so the rig changes probably every few months. I think the common one is 6 months right now is what we're at. But we're probably going to move it up to 3 times a year. So we just finished this design. So the next one will be like end of summer, and then we'll switch it for Christmas. So we do that Christmas time. We do, a big Christmas tree lighting, and it's a full time-coded show with, the pixel Christmas lights everywhere. As far as normal services, we have our Sunday morning services, which are for the normal crowd, and then we used to do midweeks. I'm not sure if we're bringing them back. And then we have our young adult services, which is on Friday, so it's for like college-age students. 18 and up, and that's a little more youth oriented, so it's very vibey.
Do you do more lighting or different lighting depending on who is at the service? I guess this is a question for all of you, but Chris, since we're with you, does the lighting change depending on who your, I guess, audience, for lack of a better word, at the moment is?
Yeah, so our lighting really changes based on the service. And even on Sunday mornings, it'll change. So, like, first service, it tends to be an older crowd, so we try, not to blind anybody.
It's hilarious. I don't want to be blinded. I don't think I'm old, but.
And then, young adult service, they're like go crazy, so we go crazy.
Sure.
The pic didn't come out. The quality's a little low, but you can still kind of see your design here a little bit.
Yeah.
Looks like a rave.
About this.
Yep. So that's one of the Sunday morning services where they're. I think it was like second service. This was actually Easter. Mm-hmm. So obviously Easter, we go a little crazier with lighting. And this is a rendering for our Harvest Crusade in 2019. Mm-hmm. And we use Vectorworks for that and everything, but that's probably asked later.
Maybe. We'll see. McKenna, I feel like we've been collecting questions along as we got to you, but do you remember where we started? What different kinds of services do you do?
We have services actually Saturday, Sunday, and Monday right now. So we have quite a few, and all of those services are pretty much locked and loaded after a band rehearsal on Saturday. So after that, it's pretty much the same throughout the weekend. And then Sunday nights, we actually have a high school service as well, and there's another designer that handles all of that. But we have that service as well in the same location, and then at all the other locations. Those are the main services. And then set changes, we do usually one around Easter, one sometime in the fall, and then another one for Christmas as well.
And is that a new light plot with that set change? Do you like change the rig? And is that the same for all of you?
Yep.
When you change the rig, you change the rig. It's a new design.
Yeah, and then similar to like what Chris was saying, the high school services are programmed by the other designer a little bit more fun. We get to do a little bit more there, and then with adults, it is a little bit more tame. But
there's still lighting for the adult services. It's still
lighting. Correct. Yeah, and we'll program cue by we'll program out each song. So if the set changes every week, we'll program something different every week. So
got it. Cool. Let's talk about process and collaboration. McKenna, let's stick with you. So what is the design process and the pre-production process like for you, and who are you working with when you plan a design?
Yeah, it actually looks a little bit different right now. We're in sort of an interim period looking for a production designer, but for like Easter, we worked with a production design team. We worked with DC Pro, Daniel Cannell and them, and they came in with the stage design. And from then, I pretty much take it into Vectorworks and make it happen. So implement that in terms of like network plots, power plots, figuring out how it's actually going to work. But yeah, it's pretty much hands-on. And then there's also so many volunteers and people that come in to help with set changes that don't really know how to talk our language. So a lot of it is also like being really prepared in the pre-process, in previs, or with the team, putting together paperwork that anybody could pick up and read.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. Chris, what's the pre-production process like for you?
Oh boy. So we have a design department that does a lot of the graphic designs and everything. So we work with the head designer from that, Josh Huffman is his name. And me and him collaborate a lot on the stage designs, especially when we head into like the holidays. So this design is kind of just a collaboration between me and the other LD, Nicholas Valdez. So really it varies based on the event, what the series is, but a lot of it starts with us sitting in our office just talking about what we could do, and then we'll put it together in a rendering real quick just to see what it would look like, see camera angles and test it out, and then we'll install it during the week and then have it ready by Sunday.
So do you, and this is maybe a question now for both you and MeKenna, since we've already gone through MeKenna, who's the boss? Like, you know, in a theater production or even a TV, there's a director who, as the designer, I answer to. Who do you answer to for the looks? I mean, can you just do what you want, or is there someone that says, you know, that's too blue, or
yeah,
you know?
We work with, I have a production director that I report to, and then there's an executive team that also will, you know, confirm that we can, you know, this stage is going to work, this stage isn't going to work. So there is a higher up, there is a process that we go through.
Chris, same for you? Yeah.
Yeah, so actually our tech director, who's over our department, used to work at McKenna's church.
Hi, Drew.
Shout out to you. So he's above our department, and so he oversees all the production elements. So a lot of it will go through him for, you know, pitching it to the pastors and executive pastors, and then once it's like approved and they love it, then we install it, and then
And do the pastors have a say? Does the pastors ever come to you and say that song was too pink, for example?
Yeah, we do. We love to make sure that they feel like they can come to us with any suggestions, and we do take into account. Obviously, we can't there's a lot of people here, so we can't accommodate every single request. And honestly, the main request where if the head pastor says it, then we try to accommodate that first.
Sure. Griffin, again, I think we're collecting questions as we go through these, but do you remember where we started?
Yeah. Kind of the design pre-production process. Yeah. For us, we actually, it starts out in our creative department with a guy by the name of Brian Worcester. He was actually one of the former LDs that would run the room. Major shout out to Brian. Comes up with some crazy designs. So that's kind of his world he's living in all the time. It's for the broadcast campus, for LED and lighting plots. And then for our campuses, we'll do different scenic sets. So that's kind of his world 24/7, is just designing up, designs that might come one day. And when it's one of those seasons to actually implement it, he'll kind of pitch it, so to speak, to like myself, who's the current LD, our LED wizard, our video director. He'll kind of pitch it to all of us, and we'll kind of start to have input from there. And no, that light's not going to work there, and that won't look good on camera, and kind of dial it into what it actually becomes when we, implement it and actually build it. And then from there, kind of more of the who's in charge question. I've got a production director that all of us that are broadcast, so the staff that essentially are running the main campus on a Sunday, that's our direct report, both during the week and then during a service. And then his report is actually the head of creative, who really kind of is able to be the bridge between us and senior pastor to really be able to, hear what senior pastor's thinking, and then senior pastor also kind of get a sense of where we're thinking and where we're thinking we go.
Got it. Daniel.
I start working with our service producer and kind of start getting the timeline schedule of when stuff needs to happen. And then I kind of go on my own and kind of come up with some ideas. And every once in a while I pull in our graphic designer to see where service, like content and media is going, stuff like that. So I kind of work on my own, come up with a few like options for what we could do for this season, or like if it's a holiday, it's a little more involved. And then the service producer and I kind of look over stuff, decide what works best. And then there also is like a service planning team that kind of, I guess, that's where like notes or things would come down from. Like week to week, we do like a service eval that goes out, and then that's where critiques or, hey, could this get changed for next week lighting wise, or in general, like anything could come out of that eval process. But that's kind of where our hierarchy of things come from. So mainly I have like free reign over what we want to do on stage and what that look is, and then we kind of pass it up if we get critiques and stuff like that, come back down and evaluate for the next time.
If someone above you hates the Gobo's choices,
I would get that and make changes for next week.
And before I get ahead of myself here, McKenna, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so that was that's our stage that's up right now. That was the Easter design that DC Pro came up with, and that was I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rattle by Elevation Worship, but that was such a fun song to program. So right now you're looking at 12 Mac Viper profiles, and we have 32 X4 bars on the stage right now. And then you can't see them up right now, but there's also some zip strips across the deck as well. But
cool.
Well, shout out to GLP for that. And
and a little teeny tiny Martin shout out too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dennis from Four for getting us those X4 bars.
Oh yeah, and shout out to Dennis.
Yes, we love Dennis.
I was going to ask you before we go on. Oh no, this sort of goes back to something I was asking before. So that's not just it's not just services you're lighting. That's a band, right? So
correct.
Do you all do that also? Is that part of what you all do? You do like rock bands as well as a service, and is that in the same location that you do the service, like on the same stage?
Yeah, so what you're looking at is just our full band setup. We have usually 3 to 5 vocalists on the downstage center line, and then we have drums, keys, guitar, and bass as well. So yeah, full band. So we have to take into account face light, key light, lighting for broadcast, lighting for the room. But yeah, there's always people on stage during worship.
And this is being broadcasted as well.
Correct. Yes, correct. So that is being broadcasted. You can see there's a jib shot in there. There's some floor cams, some stick cams, but
that's not just a music performance. That's the service where there's
correct.
A band playing.
Yeah, so that was in the middle of one of the services. So service will start and there's a walk-in and a video, things like that.
Got it. Fun. Cool.
Well, McKenna, we'll stick with you for the next question. When creating a design, what are your influences? Do you look at other worship arts designers? Do you look at concerts, Broadway, nothing? Do you just what are your influences?
Yeah, when it comes to programming on a week-to-week basis, I feel like we can sometimes get stuck in a rut of doing the same things over and over. But I really look to a lot of different houses of worship and other churches, but a lot of like music videos and live recordings. I can't think of the name. Peter Robinson, maybe something Robinson. He just came out with a music video, an hour-long segment, and he worked really well with video, the screen visuals, and the lighting, and things like that. There was a music video from like 21 Pilots, like things like that. They're working with lighting and video, but a lot of it just comes from things on YouTube and other churches. But I think the biggest thing too when programming is like not getting stuck in a rut and watching what other people are doing is a big part of it.
Right. That's awesome. YouTube, shout out. Chris, how about you?
Oh man, I look to a lot of people for inspiration. Obviously other houses of worship. I love what the guys in this and girl in this stream come up with design wise. I also look to the greats like Nick Firehouse and their designs, and Silent House Productions, obviously. And then obviously, since we're online and on TV, I'm always going to look at The Voice, American Idol, So You Think You Could Dance, just inspiration from that. And then honestly, I follow a lot of architectural accounts on Instagram. I get a lot of inspiration from that, just different shapes, and that's mostly what I go to.
Awesome. And Griffin, how about you?
I'm a real big concert goer. I love just kind of taking it all in, thinking about, why did they do that? Kind of, think through what were they thinking when they set that up, and kind of take pieces of it and kind of inspire things like that. And then also architecture, like Chris was saying, is huge for me. I love traveling, real big scuba diver. So kind of nature, natural formations of things. It's all very interesting to me, and not necessarily maybe is what I base a design off of, or a look, but it'll kind of inspire a thought that I'll have about something to kind of help shape or form where I want to go with the way something's going to look.
Cool. And Daniel?
I look at a lot of different churches. Definitely Instagram's like the best thing ever to keep ideas flowing. Churches, concerts. I'm a big architectural. I like looking at architectural stuff for especially scenic stuff and how to shapes and laying things out like that. But definitely YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that. Pinterest is great just for ideas and other color combinations of things that you're not sure about. Like that's definitely like the best way I feel like nowadays, just get quick inspiration, but also like just to see what other people are doing. And so, yeah, you don't get stuck in that week-to-week rut of your programming and you're like, this all starts to look the same every week. But that's like the hardest thing I think about, like sometimes what we do. It's like you are doing the same service every week and you got to come out with new songs you want people to see. So it's definitely keeping that your visual like index, like what you're looking at, fresh.
Keep the audience on their
Jeff,
toes.
there it is. You need to start a Pinterest page, Jeff.
I'd say too, like during COVID season, it was really, really helpful when like Hamilton was released, like things like live things that were then released. I watched the Taylor Swift Reputation tour more than once during COVID, and there's like pulled some of the X4 effects from, I don't know if they were using X4s, but some other LED effects that they had. So I think watching things during COVID was also a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
So with all the technology, Griffin, let's go to you. So with all the technology you have, what's talk to us about the tech process, and are there rehearsals, and then also how does the show or how is the service run? Is it pre-programmed or busked or time code? What is showtime? What is tech time and showtime for you?
Yeah, so really the whole week kind of starts with myself. Once a set list is posted, I'll use color theory, things like that, to really come up with mainly a primary, secondary like color palette that I think is going to work well for each song. And then we use a website called Church Motion Graphics that is just thousands of downloadable like 30-second loops. And so we usually have a loop per song and then like a primary, secondary color palette for the song. And then from there, I take that and communicate that out across our 23 locations, hundreds of volunteers, and give them that color information and then loop information. And then from there, they'll really take it and kind of make it their own location. We kind of have the phrase one church in many locations. So we want each location to kind of feel similar to others, but some demographics are going to be a little bit different. And that kind of leads into when it's game time, when it's service time on a Sunday, we have a look for each song, and then each of us at each of the locations will kind of busk it from there.
Got it.
We're in the Bible Belt, so we're not super in the crowd. We're not, super big and crazy kind of rock and roll. But lighting is definitely a part of the service, and it definitely plays a part in the experience. So it's there. We just kind of stick on the more kind of tasteful side on a Sunday, whereas then kind of like I was saying, those first Wednesday services are when we might, do some blackouts and,
Sure.
come down to some really dramatic looking looks and things like that.
Taste is subjective, so Chris, what about you? How do you tech and run a show?
We really definitely hit the ground just running. We don't have a rehearsal day here, so me and the other designer will try to program during the week when we get the songs, but a lot of our programming is actually done during sound check on Sunday morning. So obviously we have to be really good and really quick at programming. We do get like an idea during the week what we're doing. We record a online version of the service right now that goes to TV. It's called Harvest at Home, and usually it's the same set list. So we get kind of an idea on Wednesdays what that's going to be. And then our tech days are usually Mondays and Tuesdays. And
do you when you say the morning of during sound check, are you pre-programming or are you setting up your busking? Is it pre-programmed for the actual service?
So during the service, it's a mixture of both. We have effects on faders like overrides and temp faders, so we use that. And then there'll be like main cues for each song. So
cool.
It's a little bit of both for us.
Yeah. Daniel, how about you?
We're definitely pretty structured, queued out for most of service. We get song lists earlier in the week, and then I program on Thursdays, and then we have a Saturday night service. So we do our big rehearsal Saturday afternoon with the band. Band comes in, they rehearse for an hour and a half, and then we add all of our cameras, tech elements, and we do a full run through of our whole service from top to bottom. And we run all through light cues and all of our videos, everything like that. And then a half hour later, we have service. And then on Sunday mornings, we do just a little like all systems check, and then we do 2 services Sunday morning. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty much one cue list for the morning and then some faders for key light. That's pretty much all volunteer friendly because I run some weeks, but I also have volunteers that run other weekends. So that's
right.
a big part of what we do. Is it's not like over the top crazy programming. It's like it's pretty straightforward verse, chorus, bridge, build, stuff like that throughout the service. So,
and McKenna, what's it like for you?
So beginning of the week, we'll have a creative team meeting with a few of us, and we'll talk through overall vision, screen content, colors, feels of the songs, and then from there we'll kind of give that information to the other production managers at the other locations, and then we'll pretty much spend a full day programming at our broadcast location and then at the other campuses as well. And I like to call it fake time code because Drew actually from who's at Harvest now, he made a spreadsheet, and basically if I put in the BPM of a song, I'll have, if I want a slow position effect to go over the chorus of the song, it'll be a 22-second fade. So we'll pretty much time it out using that BPM to time spreadsheet, but then we'll still be pressing go for all of the cues. So that's also, it makes it really user friendly for the other locations. We are running in-ears here, and we have click and track, but at the other locations, they're just volunteers who show up day of and run that. So it's really friendly for them to be able to walk in and do that.
Right. You could do that at your location, but then it wouldn't apply to the rest of them. So you don't want to,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. What console do you use?
We are on MA2 at all of our locations. So at the broadcast, we have a full size, and then it's an MA on PC rig at all the other campuses. We're about to launch one with MA3, but.
No, cool. Question for all of you, actually. What console? We'll go down the line. Daniel, what console do you use?
We are Vista by Chroma Q currently, so we're on the slow boat.
Griffin,
well,
what do you?
We can see Griffins and Chris.
I know. What is it?
Yeah, MA2. Oh, wrong way. I'm here. MA2 at most all the locations. We were Hog. We've kind of over the couple of years moved to MA, and so for 24 total locations, that's got a cost that goes along with it. So we're about 75% at this point MA.
I see. Cool. And is that a real background or is that a photo? Are you in the?
Yeah, this is the broadcast room that I'm
cool. Looks great. So much haze. Do you have that much haze like during a service?
Yeah, so this is 15%. We use Master Effects Mystic hazers. We got one in each corner of the service, or each corner of the stage, excuse me. And so it runs at about 15%, and it starts at about 5:30 when I get here for sound check, and it just runs throughout the day.
I must have sounded like such an old man. So much haze. It looks great.
One of the biggest complaints we all get, I think, working in the church as LDs is, what is the smoke in here? It's like, you don't understand. You would notice.
We've had somebody come up to the booth before and say, I can see the Holy Spirit. And we were like, what? And they were like, I can see it. And we were like, oh, okay.
This morning I was watching, it was my weekend off, so I was watching online, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of haze in the room. So I texted him, I was like, just turn the hazer up. It's like, I can see this online, it's too much.
That's really, I can't actually see anyone on the, Chris, that's a real background also? That's not a photo?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
That's the Obsidian console. Now it used to be Martin, now it's Elation. It's the M6, and then we've got the NX2 or M2Go, depending on when we bought it, in all the other rooms.
Cool. And just in terms of in terms of lighting software, do you all draft, and is it Vectorworks that you use? And do you use Lightrite? Not a lot of people outside the little teeny tiny theater.
I actually just stopped the last few stages because the DMX patch in Vectorworks is so much easier to work with. I patch it all in Vectorworks and then just export on stage plots.
Yep. Cool. Right on.
Awesome. McKenna, we'll stick with you. How did your church deal with the pandemic, and how did it change the way you work?
Yeah, I think like everybody, we kind of just hit the ground running. The first weekend we switched to just recording our services. So we would do one day of shoots for the music sets and then another day for the actual preaching and the sermon elements. But it just looked so different, and we were kind of just figuring out as we were going. There was a spot in time where we're like, okay, you know what, we're not going. It was around Easter. We were like, you know what, this is going to be a little bit longer than we thought. So that was when the production designer at the time, he designed a stage that was a 3-screen 360 stage, and we couldn't ever do that with people people in the room because we'd be blocking all lines of sight. But we were able to implement that stage during COVID, and I actually was able to work on all the visual content for that stage as well. So I was up at my kitchen table on, my makeshift office till 3 a.m. exporting videos because we'd get the set list the day before. So I'd have to make all the content in 12 hours and then go to the shoot. So it looked very different.
And Griffin, how about you?
Yeah, kind of going back to the Christmas photos that we looked at earlier. We've done a combination of a couple things. We've done some online specific type recordings, like for Christmas that was a pre-recorded, pre-produced service. For Sundays, we were already streaming online, but we really tried to shift our focus to specifically online people because that was all of our attendance. So really hosting the online experience, not just people tuning in to seeing what was happening in the room. And we also kind of took our stage designs and changed it up a little bit right when we kind of hit online only. Like I was saying, being in the Bible Belt, we have to stay kind of, vanilla on Sunday mornings. We don't get in the crowd, things like that. So we actually kind of changed the stage design itself to give us a little bit more ability to kind of play with the lens and things like that, and also light the band and the vocals differently, since we weren't really worrying about sightline and, if it was getting out in the room or not. So that was kind of some kind of intentional ways that we just reworked what we were kind of already doing.
Cool. And Chris?
We did pretty much the same thing. So we went online. We were already doing broadcasts, so we went online immediately with our services, and we created a really cool, unique online experience for the church. And just like Griffin, we configured the stage completely differently, moved cameras around, lit it differently because we didn't have to worry about an audience in the room or anything. So we were able to get, a really unique experience that way. And then also we implemented drive-in services. So we one of the first churches to do a drive-in service where you could come in your car, tune in, and watch service as well.
And audio over the car stereo, like a drive-in movie. Oh, nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Daniel, yes. Did you answer this one? No.
Nope.
No. See, it's been weeks since I've lost track, and here I go. Daniel, how about you?
So we had been been broadcasting online, but that definitely became our sole focus then when we were online for 5 months straight. So it definitely was how can we light this to look better, where lights are positioned. Was a big thing, and it was also then video became really important, and I'd say our AVL team here became the busiest we've ever been because it was a week to week. The first few weeks we were changing stuff every week because we knew what we were doing because we've broadcast stuff, but it was how do we make this look 10 times better now because that's where everyone is and make it feel that much more engaging. So we added a pre-service live type of thing. So it was just we kept adding things to our service for those people online, specifically that just to enhance that. So that was really how do you take what we've been doing and now make it only for online, but that much better and that much more to keep people connected still.
And I assume you're all back to live worship. Yeah, great. And you all still broadcast though. It's live and broadcast both.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Great. Cool. All right, Drew.
Yeah, we're coming up to the hour mark, so it's time for our favorite part of the show.
Jeff's Roundtable Rapid Fire.
Alrighty, Griffin.
And we're gonna rapid fire to the end here.
Yep.
We're gonna rapid fire to the close. Okay, Griffin. Favorite thing to do when you are not working?
Golf.
For sure.
I'm gonna be calling you, Griffin.
I like to be outside.
Cool.
Cook, have friends over.
Great. Chris.
McKenna.
Hiking. I love hiking in Phoenix.
Chris.
I just got a smoker for my birthday, so I've been doing a lot of that.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
What brand? What brand?
Traeger. Of course.
Traeger's the only way to go. Traeger.
Been doing a lot of that in camping.
We'll talk later.
Chris. We'll do a special episode on smoking. Yeah. Chris, what's the best advice you were given by anyone?
Don't be a jerk, because you could be the best lighting designer or programmer in the world, but no one's going to want to work with you if you're a jerk. So
that's our Family Feud most popular answer, I think. McKenna.
Yeah, I think keep showing up. And then there's another quote, I'm probably going to butcher it, but a good design isn't about what more you can keep adding. It's about, can you subtract anything else and still tell your story? So
yeah. So many people need to hear that. Daniel.
Work hard. You never know who in this industry you're going to work with again, so work hard.
Griffin.
You've never made it. You've never made it in what you learn and how you act in the way you serve. You've never made it.
That's great advice. Griffin, an important skill needed to do what you do.
Listening. It's so huge to be able to take vision of senior leadership and take a hold of it and put your spin on it and kind of produce these worship environments.
Daniel.
Oh, wait, what's the question?
An important skill needed to do what you do.
Be flexible.
Great. McKenna.
Yeah, I was going to say be able to pivot. There's a lot of pivoting that we do.
Chris.
Collaboration. As hard as that might sound, it's kind of hard to collaborate with certain people. So getting really good at it is important, I think.
Yeah. Chris, what's the hardest part of your job? Collaboration.
Yeah.
Honestly, it can be sometimes. So yeah, that goes hand in hand.
Yeah. McKenna.
Hardest part of my job, there's just a lot of different people that we work with sometimes. So trying to figure out like how to get the vision from the kids team and the music team and all that.
Yeah. Collaboration. Daniel.
Taking like yourself out of the equation, so it's like you're making everyone happy. I'm trying to just please everyone, but not also like ruin your design. So
sure,
make all that criticism and put all the pieces together
and still be happy at the end of the day. Griffin.
I'd say probably staying rested and staying refueled. You know, we've got an event every 7 days. If all else fails, Sunday comes, you know, every single week. So just staying refreshed and refueled.
Favorite part of the design process for you, Griffin?
I love a good old load in. I love getting to tear everything out, clean it, load it in all nice and pretty, and then, you know, mess the cables up again over the course of the next 6 months and clean it up again. Cool. So for sure, load ins.
Daniel.
Rehearsals and actual services are my favorite part.
McKenna.
Okay, I would say there's something that we do after every load-in called Rainbow Road, where we sit back and every single light on the stage is in Rainbow Road. We sit back and we just watch it. We put Mario Kart on the screen. It's a great time.
Chris.
I would say programming. I've spent a lot of peaceful nights on festivals programming or here in the middle of the night programming, and that's kind of my zone. So yeah.
What's great is that you all listed different parts of the process. You all answered different parts of the process. So I think that's really cool when that happens. Chris, sticking with you, what's the favorite part of the service for you?
I would say the worship. Just creating an atmosphere where people can really be engaged and it's not distracting. Just like your favorite concert. You don't want to see a light that's blinking red and when everything else is Congo blue. So, yeah, creating that atmosphere.
McKenna.
Yeah, I think it changes week to week, but there's usually like a final chorus or maybe like it's a real understated bridge moment, or honestly, sometimes it's like the song to song transition. Like if you really just nail a transition and it feels really good in the room and on camera, that's like a win for me.
Daniel.
Worship is definitely creating that distraction-free environment for everyone is definitely my favorite part.
And Griffin, favorite part of the service for you?
Yeah, I would say worship. You know, when you can kind of see people when they walk in the room, they come in, they're kind of, you know, nervous, not sure what's going to happen, and then just really seeing people get comfortable and be able to worship. It's a really cool feeling to be a part.
Cool. What would you want to invent or see invented, work related or otherwise? What do you want to invent?
Oh my gosh.
Anything at all.
A cup holder for MA2 consoles.
Great. Daniel.
A human duplicator. I need more of myself to do things.
Yeah. McKenna.
Oh, I don't know.
Anything at all.
Anything at all. A cup holder for my Razor scooter. I had one and I fell.
That's a great one, actually. I agree.
They make like the wheelchair ones, but they don't have one for a Razor scooter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember I've been trying to carry my coffee in one hand and steer with the other hand. It's not very safe. Chris.
I have to say cup holder too, but also a vaccine for all future viruses.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, something you started doing during the pandemic that you're going to continue to do.
A
Work or
lot
otherwise?
more learning. I took all the free classes that came out. MA, Vectorworks, they all came out with online free classes. So definitely want to keep doing that.
Great.
Watch the virtual vendor showcase.
And watch the virtual vendor showcase. And light humor. McKenna.
Yeah, I think like what Chris said, learning, but I love taking walks, and even like in the middle of a long programming day, getting outside and hiking. There's a little mountain we have here, doing that, getting outside.
Yeah. Daniel.
Definitely like paying attention more to camera shots. That's something we started doing a lot more in COVID that is like made our services better afterwards.
Yeah. Griffin.
We gotta say collaboration like with the band. When we didn't have anybody in the room, we weren't necessarily playing to anybody. So having to try to create powerful moments still, but not be able to play off of people's energy. So that was when we really started to kind of work with the band, even more than we would have before, to help kind of facilitate and create moments. So that collaboration is really good.
That's officially the end of the rapid fire section. We're going to remain in rapid fire mode and go for one more question. Chris, what advice do you have for young people who want to do what you do?
Oh man, don't be afraid to ask questions and network, and definitely, it's all about honestly who you know and getting to know the right people, and honestly reach out to any one of us. I'm sure we could introduce you to the right people as well. I get messages all the time on Instagram, and I'm constantly just sending them to the same people I went to. So
yeah, it's great advice and very kind advice. McKenna, advice for young people who want to do what you do.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of still in that boat, but I would say just keep showing up and keep asking questions. Always be hungry to learn, hungry to know how things work, to ask questions of why'd you choose this over this? Just asking those questions at the right times. Yeah,
cool. I mean, you might be in that boat, but you're doing it. So, I mean, somebody out there wants to do what you're doing, and that's pretty cool. And also, what's great is that you're inspiring so many people. There's someone in that service who's saying like, wow, the lighting is like, look what lighting can do. And then, and they should call you officially. I don't know. Chris said you can do that, but I don't know. McKenna, can they call you too?
They can. Yeah. Hit me up. Let's go.
Daniel.
Ask questions, find a church to volunteer, and find good people to work with that are willing to show you things. Like volunteer, ask questions. Don't be afraid to learn new things. Great advice.
Griffin.
I would say just take every opportunity you can, whether it's, hanging out with somebody while they program, or just asking if you can, hang out with somebody for a service, or even if it's, when I was in the college program here, I would just show up after school and, clean up trash from a stage design. Just really try to do any task you can, just be around, be present, and just see what you can get into.
This is all great advice. And we have come to the end of our Sunday Roundtable show. Is there anything you'd like to add or clarify or retract before we say goodnight?
Nope.
Good. All right.
Great. Well, Griffin, Chris, McKenna, Daniel, thank you so much. This was a great panel, and I'm really happy that we did this. It won't be our last worship arts panel, so thank you so much. Everybody watching, don't forget to watch episode 2 of Light Humor that we put out a couple weeks ago. I don't know if the panel here has seen it, but maybe you should check it out too. I will
1 and 2.
Yeah, check out 1 and 2. I just added the link there, so if you want to watch it, it is in the comment section. Thank you again. We will see you. Actually, we're off next week for Mother's Day.
Yep.
But we will be back the week after. So
thanks, everyone.
See you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
You guys are great. Thanks,
guys. See ya.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.